Hey guys, Luis here with GVN, and genuinely, thank you very much for all the support you guys have been giving me throughout the past couple of months and years. I've been doing GVN since 2012, but I've been doing YouTube since I was in sixth grade, and now I'm a sophomore in college, and it's crazy. I've been doing this for such a long time, and most recently, hit 15,000 subscribers. That's something I've never done on any other channel I've ever run, and it's just really humbling to know that so many of you guys have watched my videos before and have been kind enough to click that subscribe button. So thank you guys very much. I asked you guys during one of my live streams what would you guys want to see in terms of a 15K special, because I don't really have anything planned. As you guys know, I'm a pretty busy person with YouTube in college, but a lot of you guys told me to do a Draw My Life, that you guys wanted to learn more about me, and being on YouTube this long, I think I owed you guys something like that. So although it's not the happiest story, here is my Draw My Life video, and my friend Jenny was kind enough to help me out with the drawing because I am a garbage drawer. But she's a really cool person, and she's an art major. She's really talented, so please go check out her stuff in the description below. Here's her business card, but please go ask her for commissions, buy her art. She's a really awesome person, so please, very much like you're supporting my dream, go support hers. So my life starts off in 1996. I was born in a town in Southern California called Ventura, but for most of my life, before I moved out to college, I lived in a town called Oxnard that was pretty much right next door to Ventura. My mom and dad both immigrated from Mexico to the United States as teenagers and met in Oxnard as high schoolers. Eventually, after high school, my mom got pregnant from my dad, and they had me. From a very early age, I was a very awkward nerd and was really into the computers and video games. I was just a really big tech nerd. My father gave me a Super Nintendo and a Nintendo 64 when I was only a little kid, and that's what got me into video games. That was what sparked my interest in Super Mario Brothers and all the classic Nintendo games. Thinking back now, I have a lot of happy memories of me playing Super Mario Brothers and Smash Brothers and Pokemon ever since I was a little kid, back to 2 to 3 years old. When I was 5, my parents had my younger sister, who was named Jasmine. I was so excited to have a sibling to take care of and teach her all of the stuff I knew already as a little kid. Even though I was technically 5, I was just so happy and excited to teach her about life. It was also around that time that my parents got me my first home computer. It was mostly used for MS Paint and little mini games here and there, as we didn't have internet in the house. It was just a computer that wasn't connected to the internet. In school, I always did pretty well. I was invited to join an honors program at a new school when I was in the 2nd grade. And even though I passed the test and I was, ready to go, I ended up turning down the offer because I didn't want to leave my friends behind, and I just didn't want to migrate to a brand new school. So I kept to my old ordinary school. When I was in the 3rd grade, we started to move around a lot. My father had, for some reason, forgot to turn in the rent on time, and so we were evicted from our apartment. And that's when my parents started to fight a bit more. Because it was so short notice, we moved into the living room of one of my mom's friends' houses for 2 weeks while my parents searched for a new place to live. Eventually, we found a new apartment complex where I made a lot of new friends. It wasn't the safest neighborhood, but I loved playing outside with all my new friends, and I would spend hours and hours just playing hide and go seek and tag with them. It's probably the reason why I'm so tan now. When I was around 9 years old, I started to take notice of the place I lived in. I knew that there was a lot of crime in that neighborhood. I noticed all the cops that would come by every once in a while, and I noticed that often people would throw away a lot of very expensive broken electronics, most likely things that people in our neighborhoods would steal and then end up breaking, or would steal broken things. I once found an electric scooter near a dumpster behind my apartment, and it didn't really work, but I ended up taking it home with me and learning how to fix it with my dad's tools, and I eventually sold it. I was able to make a profit of $200 as a little kid, and that sort of sparked the entrepreneurship in me, or the businessman in me. As a little kid at 9 years old, I would go from dumpster to dumpster each week in my apartment complex neighborhood and just go looking for things to take home and fix, and it actually became a pretty good source of income for me to buy my games as a child. This is pretty much how I paid for all my GameCube games as a little kid. At around age 11, my father bought me my first laptop, and the first thing I ended up messing around with was a program called Windows Movie Maker. And after spending about 2 hours with the program, I learned how to build a simple text movie and burn it to a DVD. And that's the first video I ever made. It was a video thanking my parents for buying me a laptop. At around this time, we moved into our first real house. Up to this point, I lived in an apartment my entire life and never had my own room. My parents also stopped fighting for once, so it was a pretty happy time. I got my first camera from my mom that same year. It was an old Panasonic pocket camera. We also had internet in the house now, so that was how I discovered YouTube. I saw people my age and even people older than me making videos, and so I decided I could do that too, and so I did. I made videos about all the classic video games that I owned at that house. After about living in the house for about 2 years, my father lost his job as a wine delivery truck driver, and so we didn't have enough money to pay rent anymore, or the home mortgage, and so we once again had to move and we lost the house. We ended up moving to a new apartment that was pretty great. There was a lot of kids in the area, so I had a lot of people to play with, and I kept doing my YouTube videos in my free time. For about a year, we lived pretty happily there. We weren't struggling to pay rent or anything, and things just seemed really good. Up until December 12th, 2009. One night I heard a knock on the door, and I went to open the door, and I got tackled down by a SWAT team member who was yelling at me, asking me where my father was. They had an assault rifle pointed to my head, and they kept yelling at me while my little sister was crying from fear. It turned out for the last 6 months my father had been selling drugs to get our family by and pay the rent. No one in our family knew about this, but until my mom could prove that, the cops took me and my sister away from my mom and put us in a group home called Casa Pacifica in Camarillo, California. My sister and I lived in this group home for about a month until New Year's Eve in 2010, when a judge finally agreed that my mom had no knowledge of what was going on with my father, and we were allowed to go back home with my mom. Sadly, however, they took away all my mom's life savings from working at Cars Jr. for the last 10 years, because they thought it was part of my dad's work. And so all my mom's life savings, including my college fund, went away. As for my father, he was sent to a prison for a few months and then deported back to Mexico. I saw my father once after he was deported about 6 years ago, and although we still talk over Facebook and the phone, I haven't seen him since. Once me and my sister were back home with my mom, we moved once again to a new smaller apartment. Life moved on, I kept going to school, and I made a new YouTube channel called Louise Macintosh that was all about tech. I went through high school and I kept making videos, and because of my YouTube hobby I became friends with a lot of awesome people from across the world. Friends like Ellie from Ellie Awesome, Ken from Full Anime, and Austin from Austin Evans. Life was good for once. My mom struggled to pay rent, and still does, but for once in our life there was no more fighting and no more moving. In 2012 I started a channel called Gaming Vlog Network so I could have a place to talk about the one thing I really loved doing outside of YouTube, and that was playing video games and talking about video games. Eventually this would become my main YouTube channel. I kept making videos since 2012 and I eventually moved out to go to college in 2014. I'm currently studying to be a computer engineer at the moment, but I'm also thinking about switching over to business marketing because it sort of relates to what I'm talking about in terms of YouTube stuff. That brings me to now in 2015. Sometime since I moved out of my mom's house, and now I decided that I want to do YouTube full time if I can. Being able to call YouTube my full-time job is hard though. In 2015, it's really hard to stand out of a constantly growing website, and so it becomes growingly more difficult to get noticed on this website. That's what I'm doing now though. I rarely sleep and I'm always working because I'm constantly juggling school, YouTube, and life. But even though it's hard for me, and sometimes I may feel like it's too much for me and I want to give up, I know it's what I really want to do in life. No one ever told me it was going to be easy, and like with all great things in life, you have to work hard to get there. And that's pretty much my life so far. I hope you guys know when I reply to your comments in the YouTube comments or on Twitter, I'm genuinely talking to you guys like if you guys were a friend, and I truly appreciate all your guys' support throughout the years. It means a lot to me, as doing this YouTube stuff, even though it seems like fun, and it is fun, it's a lot of hard work. And so I've been doing this so long for most of my life. It's pretty much taken almost half of my lifetime already. And it's crazy to think I've been doing this for so long, but I can't imagine myself doing anything else. I really love it so much, so thank you guys very much for supporting my dream. And here's to another 15,000 subscribers, hopefully. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.